Okay, this is Rabbi Sollog, and then someone asked me a question about how does the Bible deal with abortion, and most people would be shocked to learn that the Old Testament is 100% for abortion. Proof of this is if you read a modern translation of Numbers 5:12 to 31. Um, this is clearly a verse about a woman suspected of infidelity being brought before the priest, who basically gives her a magic potion in the trial of jealousy because her husband cannot prove she was unfaithful and she's with child. And if the seed is not from that man, then the bitter water, or the water of conviction, as it's translated in the Greek Septuagint, would cause a miscarriage. Therefore, this verse clearly, if you read a modern translation, explains how the Almighty will cause a miscarriage or the abortion of an unborn fetus if a man thinks his woman or wife is unfaithful and the Almighty knows if she is or isn't. Likewise, if the woman has been faithful, the bitter water, or the water of conviction, will cause no harm to a faithful woman. Once you understand that the penalty for adultery of a woman, cheating on her husband, was death, and if anyone could give witness to that, there would be no need for this act. So when you understand adultery was treated with the woman and the man who committed the adultery, they would be killed. That was the law of the Old Testament. So this deals with a husband who suspects an unfaithful wife. And that's why it's known as the trial of jealousy. Now, this was mistranslated in King James to where basically the idea of a miscarriage wasn't properly put into the English version. But in the newer versions of the translation, they understand that, the womb miscarries. Okay, so if you read verse 22 in the King James, this just talks about the thigh's going to rock, and that's a complete mistranslation. It's basically her stomach's going to swell and her womb is going to miscarriage. That's what the bitter water will cause to an unfaithful woman. Now, if you start looking at exactly what this verse says in Hebrew, this is an excellent way to read the Bible for people who don't really understand Hebrew. You can see the King James versions on the right side of the screen, the Hebrews on the left. The phonetic Jewish words, which isn't really proper biblical Hebrew as Jews pronounce this stuff, puts out the exact words, and you can look at the different words. Now, the key to this here is a word that is spelled Yad Resh Kaf. Yawak is how the Israels, through the Jews, mispronounce it. The phonetic spelling is actually Iraq, which would be the Arabic name for fertility or fertile land. So basically, thigh is how the Israeli Jew mistranslates this word Iraq. And if you understand the Sumerian and Arabic origin of that word, Iraq has to be talking about her belly and her fertile belly. Okay, so fertility is the key here, not the thigh, and that's where the problem with the English translation is messed up. So right here you can see where the King James puts in the thigh to rot. It's Yarek in Israeli Hebrew, which should be phonetically spelled as it is transliterated, I-R-K or Q, which would be Iraq. And Iraq in Arabic is 100% connected to fertility, the fertile land. So this here is talking about basically the fertile area of a woman, her thigh, and her loin area, or her uterus, which would be the tender part of the meat, which is later mistranslated as a thigh bone by the Jews from the Israeli occupation of the temple. So this here is 100% a law known as the trial of jealousy. It's known as the law of jealousy in rabbinical circles. And it just simply explains that, a man can go crazy thinking his wife has been unfaithful. So basically they had a simple test. The priest would create what's known as bitter water, or the law of conviction in the Greek Septuagint. And the woman, if she was faithful, had no problem that the child wouldn't be harmed. But if she was unfaithful, God would create a miscarriage. In the other verses of the Old Testament, the Almighty is known to basically condemn the wombs of your enemy. So over and over there is biblical verses where the Almighty will harm the seed of your enemy. He will kill the child of an unfaithful woman. So these are all biblical verses that shows that the Almighty of the Hebrew nation is 100% a baby killer or an abortionist. Now that is hard for some to accept because there is a Bible verse about any man who causes harm to the unborn fruit of the womb shall be put to death. That's talking about accidental harm by a stranger. However, an adultery by a woman, was a death sentence. So likewise, if a woman has been unfaithful to her husband and he can't prove adultery, there's no witnesses, then this is the way the Almighty dealt with it. That there was a magic potion the priest knew how to administer to your wife, and if she was faithful, everything was fine. If she was unfaithful, then it was proof she was unfaithful and her seed would abort. So the Old Testament is 100% pro-abortion. It's not a pro-life law in the Old Testament. And the New Testament has to obey the Old Testament. So, bottom line is the Israelis had this all worked out. If a woman was unfaithful to her man, her and the adulterer would be put to death if there was any witnesses. And if a husband even suspected a woman of being unfaithful, then this trial of jealousy would be brought, the bitter water would be administered, and God Almighty would kill that unborn baby if it was from an adultery situation. So there is no way anyone can say God is pro-life. The God of the Old Testament was 100% against adultery, and any woman who created adultery could be brought to the priest if the husband suspected it, and there was a way for the bitter water to kill an unborn baby. So all you have to do is read Numbers 5:12 to 5:31. Read it in a newer version like NIV, and you'll see it's all about creating a miscarriage. So if God creates miscarriages and unfaithful wives, then the whole pro-life movement is not founded on biblical rule. Okay, if you want to follow the Bible, You put to death an adultery woman and the man who committed adultery with her, and if there's no witnesses to this adultery, then the trial of jealousy would be enacted by the priest, and the Almighty would kill the child in the womb from any adultery situation. The only other thing I would say on this is, well, what's God's take on sex? God's very clear in the Old Testament. When a man lays with a woman for the first time, if she is a virgin, he must offer the rings of matrimony. At that time, men had multiple wives. And yeah, men had sex with a lot of women. And your only obligation was, if you took the virginity of a woman, you must offer her marriage and give her father the token of a virgin's worth. So, the Old Testament was, a different time. But biblically, the foundation of right to abortion is laid clearly in the Old Testament, which the pro-life movement would confuse you with, because they don't understand rabbinical law. They have no idea what the trial of jealousy or the law of jealousy means. So there you have the Almighty clearly being pro-abortion. He can kill babies if you're unfaithful, and he will kill the seed of your enemies too. So there is the God of the Old Testament, who is a baby killer 100%. This is Rabbi Sollog explaining to you the biblical law as it was followed in ancient times.